everyone. No. Good afternoon, everyone. The day goes so quickly, one forgets which half of the day we're in. I know we all have that problem sometimes. Folks, before I introduce our Assistant Commissioner, Tina Jackson, who will give welcome, I want to tell you that I appreciate all of you being here. I see many familiar faces on the participant list, and we are all working on this together, coordinating board staff at your shoulders as you work on this. I have been reflecting as we lead up to this webinar for the second, for the first update, the second version of your CLNA, how we all worked so hard in the implementation year, in the lead up to the first CLNA. We did it as we dealt with the pandemic. It was quite a challenge for every college in the state. I'm aware of that. I appreciate that we're in this place, even though we're dealing with the pandemic, and that we are updating an existing document now and not having to create CLNAs from scratch. I appreciate you all for your dedication and hanging in there in these past 2 years. So I welcome you, and I will now introduce our Assistant Commissioner, Dr. Tina Jackson, who is now a familiar presence to all of you because she's been very engaged with all of our two-year colleges. Dr. Jackson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mindy. And hello, colleagues. So good to see all of you. Hope you are all doing well and in good health. Wanted to just spend a few minutes to talk about the Building a Talent Strong Texas strategic plan that was rolled out by the coordinating board last week. So hopefully you all have been able to review that. We are very excited about educating and graduating and preparing more students to join the workforce and drive our economy. And we know that this is important work. Building a talent-strong Texas is critical. And so with that in mind, we are raising the bar. We're raising the bar by focusing on 3 measurable data-driven goals. So the first one is attainment of certificates and degrees so that at least 60% of Texans between the ages of 25 and 64 will have post-secondary credentials of value by 2030. We are also focused on post-secondary credentials of value that align with workforce demands. And we know that that's critical. We want to make sure that our students have raised incomes and that they're really able to also reduce debt. And then lastly, but definitely not least, research, development, and innovation is something that drives our work forward, and we are going to continue to focus on that to create new jobs and new opportunities for Texas across the state. We're also in the midst of always being focused in on equity. And as we strategically plan, we are always thinking of equity, and we are looking at the data to make sure that we are aware of where we're at as a state. I wanted to also highlight a few programs within the workforce education division that are currently directly connected to our overall strategic plan. So one of them you've heard about, which is the evidence-based equity grants that are currently underway under our leadership of Mindy Nobles, and just glad to be a part of that work through our career and technical education work. We also have 3 other GEAR initiatives that are directly linked to this work. One is the Texas Reskilling Support Fund grant. The other is the True Institutional Capacity Grant. And then, of course, last but not least, accelerating credentials of purpose and value. And so with that in mind, colleagues, remember that in all ways, as we do this work, we are thinking strategically about how to connect the dots to build our talent pipeline in all ways. And I'm so glad that we're here today and that we will continue to be intentional about the work. Have a great webinar session, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson, for those remarks. So as we move into the webinar first, let's go ahead and go over our agenda today. So we just had our welcome and remarks from our Assistant Commissioner, Dr. Tina Jackson. And then we're going to go right into why the CLNA must be updated, what should be revised in the CLNA, how to make revisions in the current document, submission requirements, due date and resources, and then of course we'll have some time for questions at the end. So why the CLNA must be updated. So here's just a few points about the importance of the CLNA, which all of you are probably very familiar with. Of course, it's statutorily required to update the CLNA not less than once every 2 years. Colleges should treat the CLNA as a living document with continuous assessment of goals and consultation of stakeholders. Perkins funding priorities should be identified in the CLNA and subsequently referenced in the basic application, including the budget as referenced in the RFA. And at a minimum, application must address student performance and improving access and equity CLNA goals. So, you know, that last bullet point is something that has not changed. We've asked in Perkins basic applications after the CLNA was implemented that you have reference and budget references to CLNA goals, at least to student performance and improving access and equity, and that will continue to move forward. And to make a note to bullet 2, some colleges have opted to submit a revised CLNA annually, and that is still okay. If you are updating your CLNA and you would like that on document with the coordinating board, that is completely okay to submit that ahead of your Perkins basic application. But in this year, it is mandatory for everyone to do that, even if you submitted a revised CLNA for FY22. So if you did revise it in FY22 at a time frame where it wasn't mandatory, you will submit another new document during this mandatory revision time. What should be revised in the CLNA? So here are the major sections of the CLNA, and this is also follows the narrative sample that we provide on the website, and it's also on the THECB website. So those sections are performance evaluation of students, and this includes evaluation of performance for each special populations category, size, scope, and quality of programs, labor market alignment, CTE program and programs of study implementation, faculty staff recruitment, retention, and training, and then last, improving equitable access. So what exactly should be updated in the CLNA? So the summary analysis at the beginning of the narrative, where you find the findings, vision, priorities, participants from the institution, local and or regional collaborators, and geographic area, that should be an area that needs to be updated. All sections that were previously mentioned on the slide before this will need to be updated as well. And this will include providing new data points that have developed or are current. And of course, any of your larger data representations can be included in the appendices at the end of the document. Also, you'll need to include proof of current stakeholder consultations provided, and that will be in the appendices as well with reference in your narrative. And this can include agendas to those meetings, surveys, or any other way that you're reaching out to your stakeholders. The goals will need to be updated. So it'll be program goals for 22 to 23, and then program goals over the next 3 years from 23 to 26. And just so you know, the next mandatory update will be for FY26, and it will be due in June of 2025. And again, remember that the CLNA is a living document and should be revised annually. You are allowed to resubmit annually prior to the basic application when we're not in a mandatory revision year. And of course, it's not a requirement, but if you would like for that to be on file, we will definitely take a look at it. So how to make revisions to the current document? This has been a pretty big question that we've gotten from institutions, so we definitely wanted to train on that here in this webinar. So one important thing to know is we do not want you to submit a brand new document. It is very important for coordinating board staff to identify the changes that were made to the currently filed CLNA. So you will be basically amending what you submitted in FY21. You did submit it as a PDF document, and we do ask that you submit it in Microsoft Word utilizing track changes. So that will help us identify any of the areas that you've changed through those track changes. Any comments that you provide to us, we'll be able to address those and answer those. And it will be a great way for us to work through identifying your changes and just making sure that all the requirements are met for the CLNA. And we'll talk more about what that's going to look like and what the final product will look like as well. Also, it's really important to remember that page limits from the narrative example should be followed. There will be some examples provided here in a second, but if you will remember, the narrative part was limited to 24 to 25 pages. I believe it was 25 pages, and the appendices do not have a page limit. So we want you to keep that in mind as well. So utilizing track changes and comments for the revision. So we've sort of provided a training slide in Microsoft Word if you're not familiar with the review part of this software. So you'll want to make sure that you're tracking changes for everyone. You'll see here where it marks out comments, where you add or change things. Also, you can highlight and right-click on items and provide comments. As you can see, I provided a comment here that says CT vision has not been changed from the last CLNA. And that's just a great way to communicate with us within the document. So this is how we would like for you to do your updates, is utilizing this review function within Microsoft Word. I don't know why this thing is jumping forward. Here we go. Remember page limit requirements for the narrative. So I mentioned that already, and here I've highlighted, as you'll see, the narrative template suggests that your summary analysis be between 1 and 2 pages long, that the student performance section be between 3 and 4 pages, and the subsequent parts after that are around 3 to 4 pages in length as well. Additionally, whenever you want to see your page limit to make sure you're staying within those requirements, you can change your review from all markup to simple markup. And that will hide the track changes. And it's also a way to help you see a cleaner version of your document. So, track changes can sometimes feel a little overwhelming in Microsoft Word, especially when you're working with a large document and you have a lot of changes. And so if you're needing to just see that very cleanly, make sure you're within your page limits, change that to simple markup, and you'll be able to view it that way. You're also able to submit it to us in the simple markup view if you would like. Of course, on our end, we'll change it back to track changes and see those changes. But if you want to see that cleaner version come to us, you can change it to simple markup and submit it that way if you choose. So what to expect during the review process. There will be collaboration between you and your Perkins Basic Grant Advisor on any questions that arise from the updated CLNA. There will be comments and questions that will be provided via track changes within the document. So there might be a lot of back and forth between the college and the grant advisor just about the changes that are within the document, addressing comments and so forth. We will approve the updated CLNA, and then what we will ask you to do so that you get to have the clean copy and lock it in PDF, we will ask you to submit a final PDF version of the CLNA after all review is done. So we ask that your initial submission be in Microsoft Word, utilizing track changes, and after the collaboration and review between the college and the grant advisor, we'll ask you to submit a clean copy in PDF as a final version of the CLNA. So submission requirements, due date, and resources. So here are some submission requirements for this revised CLNA. This go around, we're asking that a new signature page be required as the front page of your CLNA. And on our webpage, it's called the CLNA Executive Summary. This was referenced and talked about in the initial CLNA email that went out that included documents and various items. One was sent out late January, and then a revision was sent in early February with this change date to this webinar. So make sure you go out and grab that CLNA executive summary and include it as your cover page on your CLNA. You'll also want to submit your initial document and your final document to our Perkins email address, perkins@highered.texas.gov. In the subject line of your email, you'll need to say revised CLNA and then put the college name. And all revised CLNAs and the executive summary are due on or before June 28th. So that due date is well before basic applications will be due. It will be coordinating board staff to get these reviewed ahead of the application review so that we can make sure that the CLNA is referenced adequately in the basic application. So some of our CLNA resources, which really have not changed, there really has not been a big change to those resources nor how this document should be submitted as it was the first time that you all submitted it. But they're still available on our website. And when we do make this slide deck available, these are clickable links. But there is a new resource document titled Guidance for Updating the CLNA. And then, of course, we put all of these resources out on the THECB website as well. We appreciate THECB being a good partner with us and putting those items out on their website, which also includes the 4 project CLNAs that we had do this document before colleges had to do their initial documents. So those still exist out on the THECB website. So now that is our formal presentation. Very short and sweet. Really nothing has changed around resources or anything of that like as far as the CLNA is concerned. Really, it's just how to submit it, which way we would like it submitted, the due date, and kind of what that submission process and review process is going to look like. So now what we want to do is really provide adequate time for everyone to ask questions. We've had plenty of questions via email sent, and we've been answering those as they have come in. So we're hoping that you brought your questions with you and we can get those answered today. So Mindy and Dwayne are going to join me on camera, and we are going to see if we have any questions over in the Q&A. And also, if you have a question and you'd like to speak out loud, please feel free to raise your hand and we will allow you to speak and join us in the webinar.
And Dwayne, you will be monitoring questions submitted in Q&A. Stephanie, will you be monitoring questions submitted by email?
If I do get anything via email, I will.
Okay,
yes, I
very
do set
good.
that up.
Okay, thank you. Well, why don't we just proceed? And if anybody needs to raise hand, please do so. Why don't we just proceed? Dwayne, we are in your capable hands here.
Okay, first question, and I think you mentioned before, but can this PowerPoint be sent to us for reference?
Yes, so the PowerPoint, today's recording of the webinar, along with this slide deck, will be posted a few days after this webinar concludes. It just takes a little bit to make the PowerPoint accessible and get the recording ready for it to be posted on our website. So just a few days after today's training, we'll have that on our website.
Stephanie, would it be possible to email the PowerPoint itself in PDF form to colleges so they'll have it?
Sure, it just depends on the file size. So if the file size is allowable, then I would be more than happy to get it out to the field sooner than getting it posted on the website. Definitely.
File size is a consideration. At the very least, we will have it up on the website in a few days. We will send it to you directly in PDF format if we can. Dwayne?
Okay, and a similar question, where will the recording be housed? Might have just answered that.
Well, actually the location of the recording. So if you visit the Carl D. Perkins portion of the coordinating board website, we have various links there where the RFAs are, our leadership projects. There's one titled Comprehensive Local Needs Assessment. And that's where you also access the resources and templates the executive summary page that is required. There is where we have our webinars that we've held before. So if you're new to Perkins and you don't have a lot of historical background about the comprehensive local needs assessment, you can access the previously recorded webinars. They might be lengthy in nature because this is when we first started doing the CLNA and we were doing a lot of training on it, but those are there for anyone's needs. And so this one will also be posted there as well.
Okay. So is the June 28th deadline for the Word document and track changes, or is that for the PDF post review version?
It's for the Word document and track changes.
Okay. And then kind of related to your last question was how soon do you expect to release the Q&A presentation for review?
As soon as I can get it PDF'd, accessible, the recording ready, and someone with the coordinating board to get it posted on the website. It can take anywhere from a few days to a week. So we hope to get it out as soon as possible.
Okay. And the question, do we leave all of the original appendices and just add the new ones, or remove the old ones and replace them with the new?
Okay,
I can respond to that. You should leave all appendices that are relevant to this update. Do not delete all the old ones. Some of them may still be relevant. Add any new ones as required.
In track changes, you can, highlight that whole area and just hit your backspace button. And that tells us that you're eliminating that page. If you just feel it's completely not relevant to the new CLNA, perhaps it's just maybe it was a goal that didn't move forward. And so it just completely needs to be removed. We will see that you're removing that, but do not delete it from the original document.
Okay. Now, aside from stakeholder input and regional data, should we include projected job growth for the state of Texas, or only local projected job growth?
I think that's going to depend upon your emphasis. Your focus, of course, is your SDA, and you certainly want to provide that local and regional data. Now, should you provide it for the whole state? Do you have programs for which you place students outside your region commonly? If so, then I think that the state becomes relevant. If you need to make a point about your region as opposed to the state as a whole, that's certainly relevant. For state data, make that judgment call on your own, okay? Let it be relevant to your local situation.
Okay. And another question, do we address updates on past goals, or just update our goals based on current needs?
Stephanie?
So you don't necessarily have to provide us updates to to the goals that are in the current document, because in reality, you probably should have, at least for student performance and access and equity, have included those in your Perkins basic application and address those subsequently. And, a lot of folks have a lot of different CLNA references, not around equipment and various purchase. So that shows us that you're progressing over these past couple of program years, goals that you've had in your CLNA. So in this document, we really don't need you to provide comments on the progress or updates to that. We really just need what your program is going to look like, what that CLNA looks like moving forward in the new program years.
Okay, that's currently all the questions we have.
So we have exhausted current questions. Does anybody want to ask a question verbally?
Letty has had her hand raised since the beginning of the webinar. I don't know if that was an accident. So Letty, if you have a question, if you don't have a question, if you could lower your hand, and if you do, we'd be happy to allow you to come on in. Okay, it looks like the hand was lowered, so Oh, wait, maybe it was raised again. Nope, it was put down. Okay, I think she's good to go.
Okay, well, we're not going to end this webinar just yet. We're going to stay here in case any of you are formulating questions. And I did see that we have a couple more, Dwayne.
Yes, a couple more questions. I'm sorry, I'm sure I'm trying to. This one, okay. Data for special populations still appears to be a challenge, but we work with what we have on files for students. Do you know when will the special populations become official on Applied Texas application? Do you know who we can contact to see what the special populations supplemental questions are that were added, I guess, to the Applied Texas? In the future, we are hoping to use that data to ensure we address all the gaps identified.
Let me respond to that. Thank you for that question, Samantha. The special populations questions should be available with the 2023 Apply Texas application for community colleges. Now, I want to believe that I've shared those questions previously, but I can't swear to that. I believe I would be able to share them with all of you. I want to talk to our agency Apply Texas lead before I do so. And I'm making a note to do that right now. If they have not been shared with colleges, I think we can go ahead and do that.
Mindy, do you know if, I know this question has come up before regarding this, do you know if they will be required questions on the Apply Texas application, or will they be optional? Because that will determine whether folks need to get with their registrar's office to determine if they're going to click that button for the institution for those questions to appear. Do you know if
I don't believe that those are optional questions. So they're just part of the application.
Okay.
Now, are they required questions for students to answer that? I'm not sure. I'll have to ask that. And I see that, and I'm going to usurp Dwayne and skip down to Dr. Towalker's comment here that it was made available this past fall. My timeline could,
understanding it was as well, actually.
Okay, so my timing could be off. And everybody, please understand that we operate in a fast swirling whirlwind here at the coordinating board these days. It has been some time since I worked with the Apply Texas committee. So they should be up in there, and you should be able to draw student application data. Thank you, Kristen.
Again, Brandon writes, studies grateful the requirements have not changed. Perkins 5 is still a scary process, as is for the grant directors. THECB and Perkins grant advisors are very helpful building this document and answering our questions by phone and email. Thank you all. Well, thank you, Brandon, for words of encouragement.
Brandon, I know your good work up at Texarkana College. Thank you for those kind words. And everyone, I want you to be, of course, aware, as I hope you already are, that you can contact your Perkins grant advisor at any time. We will be bringing on board 2 new Perkins staff in the coming days here. Those will become grant advisors for some of you, and they will be in training and under our guidance for several months. Always expect a prompt response from your grant advisor. We consult on questions we're not sure we know answers to, so we will provide you valid information. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to your grant advisor. One of the responsibilities we take most seriously here is that we provide technical information and advice to colleges as needed. It's what makes you all able to do your jobs in some cases. Thank you, Brandon.
Okay, one more question. Is it okay to keep some of the same goals if there's still a need?
Yes, of course. If there's still a need and you're able to document that, then of course you can carry forward program goals.
You bet. Anyone else? Raise a hand. Type a question.
Okay. it
Looking.
looks like, William Fanning has raised his hand, so I'm gonna allow him to talk. He's going to join us here on the webinar.
Hello, William.
Hello. So I know you answered this question earlier, but I missed your answer. The June 28th deadline, that is for the Word document or the PDF version?
It's for the Word document and track changes. That's the initial document that'll be due along with the executive summary page.
Great. Sorry for making the repeat. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, now follow up for the last question. Should we make a comment if we are keeping a goal so that you are aware we understand that we did not make any changes to it?
Yes, it's a great way to communicate with us within the document. So if you're, like I had provided in the example, I had highlighted over the vision, and a quick way to do that is to right click over your highlight and you'll see an add comment button. And there you can just type in a comment and say, we're keeping this goal, add any description there that you think would be helpful for us in our evaluation process. But yes, please do that. We don't want to make any assumptions.
The more commentary you can provide in margin comments, perhaps the fewer questions we will have on review for you. So feel free to be fully forthcoming, err on the side of caution and provide more information rather than less. This is a collaboration between our two camps in the overall state Perkins effort. So yeah, feel free to be ample in your comments.
And we understand that those types of things can make the document seem lengthy. And we completely get that. We've had folks kind of address concerns that they believe that it's, they're submitting a document that's not pretty, if you will, to the coordinating board. And so we just want folks to not worry about that. Just change it to simple markup if you want to. It'll help you stay in line with the page limits. If you want to submit it in simple markup, you're more than welcome to do that. When we are editing documents, lengthy documents here, we often use simple markup as a tool, so we don't see all of the markouts and the this and that, and it can be helpful. So don't hesitate to send us a lengthy document and track changes, because I promise over our collaborations and through the review process, those things will get cleaned up, and you will get a version back that you will be able to PDF and send nice and pretty to the coordinating board.
Do we have any other questions? On the chance that some of you need to leave, I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of wrap-up remarks. We will keep this webinar open for at least another 9 minutes to 2:45 in case questions do pop up. So we will be here, and of course you've got an open line to your grant advisor should follow-up questions come. I say we have something in Q&A, do we?
Okay, they're asking if you could re-show the page reflecting the various page limits for the CLNA sections.
Yeah, it is just a screenshot of that example, but what I can do, since we have time, give me just a second. I'm going to pull up the CLNA narrative document and I'll share that with you. So give me just a few seconds.
And the information is available directly on our website. And I believe also in fillable form on the TACTI website. So you can go look at those documents directly, as Stephanie pulls it up here for us all to take a look at right quick. You've asked some good questions, folks. Thanks.
So I thought I would just go ahead and share our website, because I know we had some folks ask about navigating to our webpage for anyone who's kind of new to the Perkins world. So this is the coordinating board's main page, highered.texas.gov. If you scroll over institutional resources and programs, you click on public, community, technical, and state colleges. The third choice here is CTE, career technical education. The first choice is Carl D. Perkins, career and technical education. And then we have a link here on our main page for the Perkins 5 comprehensive local needs assessment. And this is where all of our comprehensive local needs assessment documents, resources are stored. This is where the CLNA webinars live and where this one will be with the PowerPoint included. And then just to talk about what we were just discussing, I will bring up this document here. And this is the narrative template. So this is what colleges were asked. They didn't necessarily have to, but to follow a similar format to what this narrative looked like. As long as the requirements of talking about each one of these parts was in the CLNA, that's what was required. But if you're needing to structure it differently, you can do that. You can structure your CLNA differently, just don't remove anything from the old CLNA so that we can see the changes. But here are the page requirements for the sections. As I mentioned in the training, that first part's 1 to 2 pages, and then the subsequent sections are 3 to 4 pages long. Again, the appendices at the end, which can get lengthy because it's various data points. You're sharing your stakeholder engagement agendas or how you reached out. The appendices have no page limit at all.
Okay, and we will continue for a few minutes. Let me just, again, make a few closing and wrap up remarks, but we are not closing the webinar until we're sure that we've answered everyone's questions now that are present in your minds now. I don't want to end this webinar without thanking Stephanie Perkins for organizing it, for putting together the very to the point and informative PowerPoint slide deck she's shown to you today. I want to acknowledge that Stephanie is our lead staff on the overall CLNA update effort. And again, contact your grant advisor with questions, but please know that Stephanie is leading our effort, managing our web content on the CLNA, so on and so forth. And I see we have another question. Dwayne.
Brandon is wondering, will there be Perkins 5 breakout sessions next week at TACTI, just like in the past?
Are you referring to leadership presentations from Perkins Leadership Grants? Yes. Brandon, there should be. We haven't tracked who has submitted a proposal, but there certainly should be. Public dissemination is one of the requirements of holding a leadership grant. So I haven't seen the detailed agenda yet. It may not be released until later this week, but I expect to see several. Oh, Shanna Drury, we have right with us. Yes, there will be breakout sessions for leadership grants. So, and you know what, folks, we're all going to be together next week. It's been too long. Looking forward to that. Thank you, Shanna. Yes, good. Okay. Okay, let me go on to say that we appreciate everyone being here today. Those of you who have taken time from your day to be here, I hope this has been a useful webinar to you. And oh yes, William, thank you too, even though you didn't get to the front of the line in time. And I say we have another question.
Yes, given the number of stakeholders at the college, there will be challenges, including all of the track changes for the CLNA. Essentially, every line will be touched multiple times by multiple readers and editors. Can we talk about a process for navigating internal college changes before we begin the process of creating a track changes document for the THECB?
I've actually, go ahead, Mindy.
Go ahead.
Well, I've actually had this question asked of me from a larger district college such as Tarrant. My recommendation to that was to just exercise version control. I would have a main document that either your Perkins director, institutional contact, whoever's handling that, and we'll send a final revised CLNA in-track changes to us, and have a document working within the college where your comments are being changed and added and subtracted by multiple people across the campus. And then that person will then take those final edits and put them into a document that will be sent to the coordinating board. That was the, in talking with that person in sort of a non-formal way about thinking through a challenge like that for a larger district institution, we agree that that was probably the best way to do that, was through version control.
And this is a good question to ask here. And Stephanie, you don't know Candy Center perhaps, but she is Tarrant. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good CTE presence at Tarrant. All right. Well, and I will add that this is a local question. Version control is very, very important. But your internal process of developing these revisions and your process for submitting to us are really completely under your control. We need a document that we can review. Okay, you will determine what it looks like. Okay, and we have another question, I believe, Twin.
Yes. Will the CLNA matrix and the stakeholder checklist be required in the future? Or are these templates for us to just use if needed in the processing of the CLNA and the CLNA updates?
Those documents are just meant to be resources for institutions. So if you're utilizing those items to make sure that the matrix is a very helpful document to make sure that within the various parts you're asking the statutorily required questions. And so that was a big recommendation of us when we first did our first CLNA, was to utilize that matrix. And some folks put it in the CLNA. They actually put the matrix within the CLNA, and that is not a requirement. Additionally, the stakeholder checklist is, again, just a resource to make sure that all stakeholder groups that are in statutory language are engaged. So no, they don't have to be included. It is just a resource.
Right. And when we came up with these, it was really just since we had never done this type of assessment before. It was just kind of a guideline to help you. But whatever works for your program, to include them or not to include them. If you have a different version that you would like to include, whatever helps you the most. And then kind of another follow-up question was about the special populations questions we had asked earlier. And I guess that was on the Applied Texas.
And let me respond to that. Samantha, hello down in South Texas, by the way, South Texas College. I hope weather's good down there. Check the Apply Texas application directly. It's available online. If you do not find the questions there, you can shoot me an email directly and I will see that we get them to you. Since Dr. Towalker confirms that they are available, she knows that they're there. I think you could probably just go take a look at the public document to look at those questions. So rather than sending them out, take a look at the public document. Anybody who has any difficulty, just go ahead and email me, okay?
I'm going to put up our contact slide so that everyone has our information.
Very good.
Already do not.
And I will continue to make closing remarks. We've got a few months, 4 or so, 5, to get CLNAs to the coordinating board and let us begin the collaborative process of working with you to finalize those. You are required to do all the things you were originally: stakeholder consultations, data updates, provide current data, everything. We hope this webinar today has been useful in helping you continue the work you're already doing or in making a solid start on the work you're doing. Do check resources on the coordinating board site and on the TACD site. We appreciate our partners at TACD tremendously for the Perkins support they provide across the state. I have always said that TACD rather has created Perkins for the people. It's a unified place where people can talk, be on the listserv, and they have supported us in providing resources. We are not quite drawing to a close. Stephanie, help me make a call. Should we go ahead and give people their 10 minutes? Wait. Leslie Keeling Olson, who is our immediate past TACD president. I don't believe we do, Stephanie, need anything loaded to the TACD page.
Unless we include, Leslie, let me go out and take a look exactly what we included last time and see if it would be helpful to include the executive summary page and perhaps a new resource document that we put out on the coordinating board website. If so, I will send those over either your way or to whoever you all want me to send that to with the organization.
Okay, that sounds good. Leslie, thank you. I kind of credit Leslie Keeling Olson, if you don't know this, with being the vision for Perkins for the People, my self-named characterization of how we have unified the Perkins community through TACD and through Leslie's efforts. Okay,
let's see. Francis has their hand waved, so I'm going to allow them to talk and join us here so they can unmute and ask their question.
Hello, everyone. I was just wanting, I wanted to check. I know last time we received some labor market information. I mean, we're working with our local economic development to get that information, but I was just wondering if we were going to receive any more from you all.
We last time, Francis, we were offered, we asked and were given Special data runs for all colleges for labor market information from Dallas is DSLI. I believe
Yes.
that's the acronym for it.
Mhm.
Institute. And we have not been in touch with them this time. Please use your available local, regional, and any TWC data that is relevant for you. That was a special support we provided last time because we were just all really at the magnitude of the job we had to do, and the coordinating board wanted to provide good support. We don't have that this time. So work with your local resources.
Thank you.
I think this is a good time to bring up as well, while we have the audience, that folks need to know that there are funds are allowed in your basic grant towards your CLNA efforts. So if you have maybe a software or something that you've been eyeballing for your CLNA or something to that effect, we have several colleges that have certain types of labor market software on their grants. You can definitely do so. We just went through the reallocation process, and funds were budgeted there, but you can amend your grant. You can send an email notification if you have leftover funds from saved items, and if you need to add something on. So keep that in mind as you go through this process and head towards June, and we get real close to that July 1 amendment deadline, which would be after these CLNAs are due. But just keep in mind that you can update or change your budget if you need to help out with any resources for the CLNA.
Okay, we are nearing the end of this webinar. This is a final call for questions. Are there any questions that anyone has not posted? You can raise your hand and we will give you the floor. You can post in Q&A. Let's give it just a couple of minutes here and we will close out this webinar.
I think in closing, we just wanted to say as well that Dwayne and I are here as your grant advisors currently. And as Mindy mentioned, we'll have a couple more folks to join us and we'll be assigned some of you all and we look forward to them working with you, but we're always here as a resource. So Dwayne and I are your direct contacts if we advise your grant. And of course, Mindy's always here if you have any extraordinary questions or some of those crazy outliers, if you will. She's always here to answer your questions and be that expert mind that she always is. So please feel free after this webinar to reach out to us, and if you have any questions that come up afterward, we'll be very happy to get those answered.
Okay, and we do. Okay, well, thank you, Tina. Thank you, Tina. We will then close this webinar. I want to thank, in closing, Dwayne Hiller as well for taking time from his always too busy day to serve as our question and answer monitor. Folks, go well, go safely, and rely on us as your resource for Perkins, okay? Have a lovely rest of the day, and this webinar will now close.